Big 12 tournament for women's basketball has been set and it'll be played from March 7th through March 12th, and there is no game on March 10th, by the way. But first, I'll go over the final standings. Oklahoma 15-3, Texas 14-4, Kansas State 13-5, Iowa State 12-6, Baylor 12-6, and West Virginia 12-6. And Iowa State owns that edge because they beat Baylor that one time, and West Virginia lost to Baylor twice, so it makes sense. And there's Kansas 11-7. That's the last NCAA tournament team, and Kansas should be firmly in the NCAA tournament field as long as they don't have a bad loss. In the Big 12 tournament, and there's Oklahoma State at 7-11. Then TCU gets an edge over BYU for that 8th spot because of head-to-head, 6-12. And there was a three-way tie for 11th place, and that's Texas Tech, Houston, Cincinnati. But Cincinnati gets an edge at 5-13 as an 11th seed when you can look at the results and the tiebreaker rules. And the 12th seed would be Texas Tech, and the 13th seed is Houston. And the last place team in the conference was UCF at 3-15. And the first game in the Big 12 tournament, like I said, would be played on March 7th. The first game is the 12th seed Texas Tech versus the 13th seed Houston Cougars at 5:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN+. The 11th seed Cincinnati will also play that day against the 14th seed UCF at 8 p.m. Central Time on ESPN+, or 30 minutes after. It just depends on how long the game goes. Then the first game on March 8th will be like the 5 seed Baylor versus that play-in game among the Texas Tech and Houston. Then the 8 seed Oklahoma State will take on the 9th seed TCU. And it's just rough for TCU that starts so well this year, but then the injury bug hit them. And they had to forfeit games, if y'all don't recall, at 1:30 p.m. Central Time or 30 minutes after. It just depends. Same thing goes for all these games that are now the second game of the day here. But the first game at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, like the 7th seed Kansas and the 10th seed BYU Central Time. And the last game is 30 minutes after, or 8 p.m. Central Time. Like West Virginia takes on the winner of Cincinnati and UCF. The next day, March 9th, Iowa State will play that Baylor versus Houston or Texas Tech winner. And if Baylor wins that game, that would be a rematch. And Baylor lost that game by 3 points. But Baylor's on a 5-game winning streak, and they're playing the best basketball right now. The 1 seed Oklahoma will obviously take on the winner of Oklahoma State and TCU. And Texas, the 2 seed, will take on Kansas or BYU of that game at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. And by the way, that Oklahoma game is like 30 minutes after, or 1:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN+. And same thing goes for the Iowa State game and Texas game on those stations. On ESPN+. And on ESPN+ as well as the 3 seed Kansas State versus the West Virginia, Cincinnati, or UCF winner at 8 p.m. Central Time, but 30 minutes after on ESPN+. March 11th is the next day, and both games will be on ESPN2, by the way. It's at 1:30 p.m. Obviously, like the semifinals, like the Oklahoma and the Iowa State games, respectively. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And it's 30 minutes after, or 4 p.m. Central Time between, like, Texas and the Kansas State winners. But I think both would play each other again, but we have to wait and see. And then this championship game, obviously, the winner of those semifinal games plays the next day at 8 p.m. Central Time on ESPN2. And if you win the conference tournament that's not currently in the NCAA tournament right now, as in like an at-large bid, you would get in the NCAA tournament by winning your conference tournament. And this does help like the seeding as well for teams like Baylor, for example. If they go out and win the whole Big 12 tournament or even just get to the championship, maybe they become a host side, if not like a 5 seed, potentially. Or it just all depends on what goes around them as well. And I'm just saying that, for example, in Oklahoma might have hurt themselves for a host site because of that loss to Kansas last game. But maybe they play themselves up to that again. But if not, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. And if Baylor would beat Iowa State and Oklahoma would win both those that game, that would be a rematch again. But Baylor let them Oklahoma just get away late, even though they were down by like 4 points, and they just came back. So I'm just telling the truth there. And Texas should be a host site no matter what. Of all of this, should be. It's a matter of, are they going to be a two seed or a 1 seed? But I think it's more likely to be a two. I think a 2 seed is more likely. But all depends on around the conference tournament. And Kansas State, for example, they're not listed as a top 16 right now, so they will not be a host side. So they also need to find a way to play themselves up to that if they can beat Texas and avoid a West Virginia loss. And in West Virginia, it's just playing for seeding for the NCAA tournament. They should be in, but as long as they don't lose to Cincinnati or UCF, I'm just telling the truth because they did lose to Oklahoma State. They did. So, and Kansas is obviously just trying to find a way to avoid that last 4 byes, if they can here, or avoid the last 4 in deal, because you don't want to sweat it out when you know the selection show is like 2 weeks from now currently. So anyways, if you like this content, hit the like and subscribe button. See you guys later on the road to 600 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal is 1,000 more. So I'm money out this course. Liking the video, comment video really helps YouTube algorithm so more people can see. Sharing the video does help as well so more people can watch. And if you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well.